if you are someone who's attempting to win back a lost relationship, I got to tell you that one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself is to focus on what you can control. Control the controllables and let everything else go. I want to start off this podcast today by reading a quote that I wrote down, and it was this: true power lies with the person who can control the controllables and let the rest go. Well, what is up, my dear friends, and welcome back to another episode of Honey, I'm Home. Today we're going to be talking about how can you begin to rekindle a broken relationship? Or maybe it's not completely broken, but it's a touchy subject, right? When you think about that person, you think about how difficult it is to communicate to that person. You think about how it's more of a nuisance than it is an opportunity to really create new change in a newfound friendship or relationship or, love life with them. So if you are struggling to rekindle a relationship, to put it back on the right, proper path of respect and love and appreciation, it doesn't matter if it's a romantic or a business partnership or, maybe it's an employee partnership, regardless of the relationship. If you're struggling to rekindle that relationship, then this episode is for you, my dear friend, because I'm going to give you the very things that are going to help you to rekindle that relationship. And what I'm about to share with you, you might find a little bit surprising, because it's not so much about focusing on them as much as it is focusing on yourself. But before we dive into that, my dear friend, I just want to say thank you for joining me here today on the Honey, I'm Home podcast, the podcast that's going to help you to elevate your leadership, your relationships, as well as your self-improvement or personal development. Listen, I believe that personal development is the foundation to living a great quality of life. And regardless if you're, trying to create healthier and happier relationships, you need to really focus in on yourself. You've got to take your personal development to the next level. You've got to learn how to take your personal development and create a plan so that you can continue to grow yourself, because relationships are going to require you to grow yourself if you're going to achieve a lifelong happy relationship with someone, especially if that's what you want. This is a leadership podcast. This is a relationship podcast. This is a personal development podcast. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the personal development and relationship side of things. And but before we, like I said, dive into that, my dear friend, I am so appreciative that you're spending your time with me today. If you are new here, thank you for being here. But if you are a long-term listener, well, all I ask for you to do for me today is share this out with 1, 2, or 3 of your friends that could, that are struggling with rekindling a relationship, and that could use a sense of advice and some compassion, some uplifting, hopefully wisdom that can help transform the peace in your relationship with someone else. So today's topic is all about what it takes to rekindle a broken relationship. A broken relationship is a relationship that is, a little off-putting. Maybe it's in a bad place. Maybe it's not where you want it to be. Maybe, you're having trouble to communicate with them. Maybe you're having trouble to connect to them, understand them, respect them, listen to them, because there's a lot of, there's drops of poison. There's moments where your love is falling apart. There's moments where your communication is falling apart. There's moments where you would rather just point your finger at the person besides yourself. Well, today, if you are someone who's attempting to win back a lost relationship, I got to tell you that one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself is to focus on what you can control. Control the controllables and let everything else go. When I tell you to focus on the controllables, do you even know what that means? I didn't. And so I had to learn about what it is that I can actually control and then contribute to the relationship. When it comes to repairing a relationship with someone else, oftentimes it's a matter of not focusing so much on them as it is focusing on yourself. You see, I get a lot of people to DM me in my Instagram messages every single day asking me, how do I win back someone that I love? Maybe you're not here to learn how to win back someone you love. Maybe you're here to just win back someone that you work with. Maybe you're here to win back someone that you have to spend a lot of time with, that you struggle with, an in-law. Maybe it's someone who you have to learn from or respect for a period of time because you're spending time with them. Well, if you're learning how to rekindle a relationship, you just got to learn how to control what you can control and let the rest go. Because if you don't learn how to let the rest go, then you're going to drive yourself up the wall, and the relationship oftentimes will never work out. So today, let's talk about first what you can't control, and then I'm going to help you understand what you can control in relationships and dynamics. I have 6 big ideas here for you on what factors play a contributing factor to what you can't control in a relationship. The first thing here is, you can't control how your partner feels, right? So think about that for a moment. Their current emotional state, you cannot control their current emotional state. They get to control how they think and feel about you. So whether that's, maybe a business relationship or a partnership of romance, either or, you can't control how they feel. So don't try to manipulate how they feel. Allow them to feel it in order to work through it. A lot of our turbulence in our life is a matter of understanding that we don't understand what we're feeling, so they're struggling to express how they're feeling because they're fearful to express it in means that they might actually hurt you, or they might actually cause you to feel anything besides how you should feel. So one thing that you need to understand is that your partner's feelings isn't something that you can control. Number 2 is your external influences, meaning like there's a lot of people that have external influences, such as friends and family members or new partners, life circumstances, such as careers, changes, and challenges that come into play. Life offers us a bunch of obstacles that we have to get through and work through. And there's so many people that talk into other people's lives. So when somebody's talking into someone's life about you, you can't stop that. So why focus on that? You've got to learn how to control the controllables in order to establish a strong relationship with them. Now, if you want to rekindle that relationship, I'll talk to you about in just a few moments on how you can begin to control these 6 controllables so that you can rekindle it and once again put yourself in a better state of mind, because ultimately relationships come down to, are you capable of taking care of you long enough so that you can take care of someone else, even if there's turmoil and struggle, chaos, and so on and so forth. Now, listen, you can't control how they feel. You cannot control the external influences that are dictating their thoughts, their emotions, and their beliefs about you. You also cannot control past events, things that have happened in the past that have broken the relationship. So when you think about what has happened in the past, understand that you can't control the past. You can't change the past. The only way that you can change the past is by not repeating the past in the present moment. So think about, what you two have went through and what has got you to this very point that you are unhappy with. Understand that it's good to reflect on the past and find the lesson, but it's not good to live there. And understanding that the past is in the past, there's nothing I can do about that. And now we have to create something new. We have to create a hope-filled future where, do we have a relationship that we can work together respectfully, openly, honestly, transparently? If not, then we have to hold another form of communication in order to make sure that this relationship could work out. But ultimately, you can't also force or control the timing and readiness of the person that you're trying to rekindle that relationship with. Like, timing plays a huge role in the rekindling of a relationship. They will be ready when they're ready, but you can't force their readiness. You kind of have to just allow yourself to be patient in the journey. See, I was hinting at what you can control. You can control your patience, right? But you can't control when they're ready. You can only control when you're ready. And you'll never have to get ready if you stay ready. So constant self-improvement, working on yourself and making sure that you are someone who is ready to re-engage in that relationship at any time that they're ready to engage in that relationship or that conversation or that form of communication can really help you to excel in the rekindling process of that relationship. Another thing that you cannot control is, the mutual values or compatibility. That means just like the fundamental values that they hold, the goals that they have, the lifestyle that they live. Ultimately, you can't control your ability to be compatible together, because that oftentimes makes you have to manipulate that person or change yourself in order for the relationship to work. Sometimes some relationships are just not meant to work. But I think you can always make relationships work, even if they're not meant to work. simply by giving a lot more effort, a lot more love, a lot more respect and attention to that relationship. So listen, too many individuals out there that I've talked to are focusing on the wrong things when they're trying to rekindle the relationship. They're trying to focus on, the outside external factors that could potentially play an influence. You're trying to focus on, your ex-partner. You're trying to focus on, the person that you are not in great communication with right now. You're trying to focus on, their thoughts, their emotions, their beliefs, their feelings, what they'd say, what they'd think, how they respond. You're trying to control the outcome of how they react, and it's going to drive you up the wall and make you go absolutely crazy. And you got to allow yourself to control the controllables and let the rest go. So the external, anything externally from yourself, meaning a person or their thoughts, their emotions, their beliefs, their morals, their values, what they do and or don't do is out of your control. And you've got to learn to just make peace with that. How they show up and act toward you is on them, not on you. Their response and how they respond toward you is not on you. It's on them. You can't stop someone from feeling a certain way, but here's what you can do. If you're ready to rekindle a relationship with someone, here's some things that I need you to start to control. You need to start putting yourself in a better attitude and start acting accordingly. I think your attitude is something that you can control. Displaying patience and kindness and understanding in that relationship will go a long way. Being a more active listener, bringing an attitude where you don't feel like you have to say a lot, but you're there to listen to more than you say, right? Allowing yourself to basically demonstrate respect and empathy, allowing yourself to listen rather than speak are things that you can control in that moment of rekindling that relationship with a partner or a lover, a coworker, a business partner, whomever, just another relationship that you're struggling to really allow yourself to engage in. So the thing that you can control is your attitude and behavior toward them. Focus on that. If you want to rekindle a relationship with someone else, focus on you before you focus on them. Number 2 is you can always focus on constant self-improvement. Here at One Team Media and the Pavement Group, this company has a lot of great core values, and one is constant self-improvement. And I cannot stand by this one enough. I think constant self-improvement is something that I oftentimes in my courses and programs teach people how to hone in on taking care of themselves so that they can learn how to take care of someone else. Listen, it's always been hard for me to take care of my family, my coworkers, my, things that I give to other people if I can't give to myself first and improve myself. Listen, constant self-improvement is something that you can control. So when you reflect back on that relationship, something that you need to think about is, where did I fall short? I think this is something that not enough people spend enough time doing that deep mirror work, where it's like, hey, where the heck did I fall short? Am I falling short in the manner of like, I'm talking too much. I was trying to speak too much. I was, that's kind of the same thing as talking too much, but speaking too much. Am I arguing too much? Am I disrespecting them too much? Am I making them feel unheard in any way, shape, or form? Where am I falling short? And then once you figure out where you're falling short, like, you've got to create a self-improvement plan by identifying the problem, something you can control, creating a plan on how you're going to solve that problem by maybe reading some books, listening to some podcasts, taking some classes and some courses, getting a coach, finding a mentor, and just gaining some perspective, because there's so many people out there that could teach you, could help you, could educate you, to help guide you through that moment. Get a therapist, get a counselor, get somebody on your side to help you work through that, moment of where you're like, man, I really fell short here. So if you know that the problem between you and somebody else is your lack of ability to communicate, maybe you should start studying some communication books and programs. Listen, the next thing that you can contribute and control is your ability to communicate to them, right? So like, listen, you don't have to be an asshole, right? You don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be blunt. You don't have to be... You can be, but you don't have to be. There's a lighter way, depending on how fragile the relationship is. You don't have to be so blunt and bold in that moment in time. Listen, if your relationship with someone is broken, you can't be so blunt. You can't be so mean. You can't be so, honest in a hurtful way. You can always be honest, but like there's a way to communicate your honesty and your inner truth, and it takes a great communicator to be able to do such. So like think about how you're communicating with your body language, with your energy, with your vocal cords, how high, how fast, how slow do you talk? What I've learned in my own marriage is like anytime I talk slower and allow myself to have a calm, quiet voice when I talk to my wife about something that I could easily get heated up over and we could easily get into a debate, she feels more heard. She feels more calm. She doesn't start throwing her Italian and hands all over the place. And, she usually matches my energy. So the way that I speak, how fast I speak, how slow I speak can really control the emotions of, the conversation. You can control your communication skill. You can always control saying, I'm sorry, and apologizing and making amends to the past. Listen, I don't know what happened between you and I, or maybe there's something I said and or did, and I'm sorry. And genuinely mean it. Like, I don't think that holding on to this grudge or whatever negative energy is between us is healthy and worth it. And I want to have a great working relationship. I want to have a great marriage. I want to have a great partnership. I want to have a great relationship. And holding on to the past and not forgiving you and forgiving myself is not going to get us to where we want to be working together as one team. On the same team, I always express the we versus the problem, not me versus you. And if you're married, or if you're all under one team or whatever it is, right? It's like, it's us versus the problem, not me versus you. I always tell my wife that anytime we're in conflict. It's like, honey, let's identify the problem real quick. Let's talk about the problem, but understand that the problem is separate from us. It's us versus the problem. How can we solve this? Because at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We both want to win. Okay? The next idea is you could really start to rekindle the relationship by rebuilding your trust. Now, this is a big topic, and maybe this is a conversation for another time, but ultimately, rebuilding trust is about being consistent in your action and words to rebuild the trust. So think about this. If you want to rebuild trust, the quickest way to rebuild trust is to do what you say you're going to do. Be who you say you're going to be. Show up as the individual and live congruently toward that individual. So, like, listen, if you're going to be like, I'm going to be more honest, I'm going to be more loving, I'm going to be more caring, I'm going to be a better listener. Like, listen, stop talking. Okay, shut up. Like, if you say you're going to do it, like, that's how you build trust. How do you rekindle trust? Is like, say some strong words that you can make sure that you're showing up accordingly and congruently toward, right? So like, think about it. If I say that I'm loving and I show up as a mean, butthole, ultimately, what does that do? Well, it makes somebody question their ability to trust me. When I say I am something, I make sure that I commit to saying it and being it. If I say I'm healthy, I make sure that my actions respectfully respond to the proper habits that make me healthy. If I say I'm happy, I make sure that the proper happiness habits are in alignment to my ability to be happy. Just live more congruently toward who you say you are and do what you say and say what you do, and you can rebuild trust. That's something else you can control. And the last thing that I want to talk about that you can really control is just setting some boundaries. Respecting both you, your ex-partner, or your partner, or your business partner, or your coworkers' boundaries is going to be something that's really going to help you two to rekindle. Because when you respect somebody's boundaries, and they're like, hey, I need to stop doing this with you, or I need to start doing this with you, or whatever it may be, if they can respect that boundary, the relationship can rekindle and repair. Listen, I've given you so many different ideas. I'm going to run through these real quick. So what can you not control when it comes to rekindling a relationship? The couple things is you can't control their feelings. You can't control external factors. You can't control past events. You can't control their timing and or readiness. You can't control the mutual compatibility. Sometimes the values just misalign and it's just not meant to be. But what you should really focus on when it comes to rekindling a relationship that seems to be broken and all disarrayed, you can control your attitude, you can control your behaviors, you can control your ability to continuously improve yourself. You can communicate more effectively by listening a lot better. You can control your apologies and making amends with the situation. You can control setting some boundaries, and you can control your internal world, okay? Your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions. And let me talk about that just one quick moment. If you're struggling to control your thoughts and more importantly, your emotions, it's because you're asking yourself the wrong questions. Let me tell you how this works. If you're struggling with your thoughts and emotions, it's because you're struggling with asking yourself the proper questions. Questions always lead to a thought, which a thought leads to emotion, okay? So ultimately, what type of questions are you asking yourself? Are you asking yourself empowering, positive, life-enhancing questions and relationship-building questions? Like, how can we get this to work out? Or are you saying, why does this never work out? How can we get this to work out can lead to a different thought than why does this never seem to work out for me? Okay? So when you think about your thoughts and you're like, hey, it's hard for me to control my thoughts and emotions, it's because you're struggling to control the questions because you're not so aware of the questions that you're subconsciously or consciously sometimes asking yourself. And now you have to filter your questions. Is it going to be a positive, life-enhancing question that's going to benefit a strong, positive thought, or is it going to be a negative question that's going to dictate a negative thought and emotion? So I want you to start thinking about that. When you re-engage and rekindle in those relationships, are you asking positive or negative emotions about that person? Because if you're asking negative emotions about that or negative questions about that person, you're going to ultimately get a negative response and a negative feeling toward that person. Think about it. Why do they always do this? Why do they always treat me like this? Why do they always question me? It doesn't lead to a strong, positive relationship with that person. But when we ask, how can I better support this person when I communicate to them? How can I rekindle a more positive relationship? It can lead to different thoughts. How can I support this person in their ability to communicate effectively with me? How can I be more loving toward the person? It just changes a little bit. It ultimately helps you to dictate your thoughts, which ultimately allow you to dictate your emotions. My dear friends, I hope that this podcast episode was direct. I hope that it was easy to understand. I hope it's going to be easy to follow. It's good to know something, but it's better to do that something. And my main message here today is this. If you're struggling to rekindle a relationship with someone, it's because oftentimes you're focusing too far outside of yourself and not enough on yourself. You're trying to control them and you're not trying to control you. And if you want to rekindle that broken relationship or that unsteady relationship that you're struggling with, then you need to double down and take care of you and your internal world, not them and their external internal world. The focus is on you. When you take care of you, you can learn to take care of other people. And when you learn to take care of you and other people, you start to create a happier heart and ultimately a happier workplace and a happier home. My dear friends, my name is Tylerjoestratton, and this is, honey, I'm home.